For decades, air combat has been a numbers game, and America has been running short on pieces. A single F-22 lost in combat can never be replaced. A downed F-35 cost 60,000 man-hours to rebuild. The Pentagon needed a way to fight at range, protect its pilots, and flood enemy skies with firepower without gambling its most irreplaceable assets. Then DARPA built something that changed the math entirely. An air-launched drone that hunts down enemy aircraft and fires on them before a single crewed jet ever enters the danger zone. How does it work, and what does it mean for the future of air warfare? Join us as we reveal the world's first missile that fires its own missiles. The U.S. still fields the most advanced air force on the planet, with more fifth-generation stealth fighters than any nation on Earth, a nuclear triad built for global reach, and decades of hard-won experience projecting air power anywhere in the world. On paper, it sounds unbeatable. But the uncomfortable truth is that in any serious conflict, say a war over Taiwan with China, the United States would absorb real losses. Stealth fighters like the F-22 and F-35 are extraordinarily expensive and extraordinarily difficult to replace. The F-22 is no longer in production, meaning every aircraft lost is gone forever, and each F-35 takes anywhere from 40,000 to 60,000 man-hours to build. That is not a fighter jet. That is a decades-long national investment sitting inside a cockpit. The Air Force began searching for ways to add firepower to the fight without adding risk to its most valuable assets. That search led to collaborative combat aircraft, AI-enabled drone wingmen built to fly alongside crewed fighters and share the burden of combat. But even those drones carry a steep price tag of approximately $30 million apiece, and losing one is not trivial. That is exactly the problem the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency set out to solve with the Longshot program. Not with a reusable drone, but with a disposable one. A single-use, jet-powered drone that flies ahead of manned aircraft, carries its own payload of air-to-air missiles, engages enemy fighters at range, and then, when it is out of ammunition or fuel, simply crashes. The concept is elegant in its ruthlessness. If it was going to crash anyway, it might as well take a few enemy fighters with it first. Air-to-air combat officially began on October 5, 1914, when two biplanes clashed over Reims, France, using handheld rifles and machine guns at close range. Barely 30 years later, near the close of World War II, fighters were engaging each other at distances of up to 1,000 yards with purpose-built onboard cannons. Then in September of 1958, a Taiwanese pilot flying an American F-86 Sabre scored the first air-to-air missile kill in history, downing a Chinese MiG over the Taiwan Strait using a newly developed AIM-9 Sidewinder, with a range of nearly 3 miles. That single engagement changed everything. Missiles dramatically extended engagement distances and began shifting the advantage away from raw pilot skill toward technology and range. Today, the expectation is that most serious air-to-air engagements will occur beyond visual range, typically defined as more than 20 nautical miles. The most capable long-range air-to-air missiles now carry more advanced radar technology than some older fighter jets, and Russia's R-37M, America's AIM-174B, and China's PL-21 all claim ranges well in excess of 200 miles. On the surface, that sounds decisive. Fire from 200 miles away, and the enemy never even sees it coming. But maximum range figures are deeply misleading. A missile does not fly in a straight line to its target. It climbs to altitude under power, sometimes above 100,000 feet, then coasts the rest of the way, using its altitude as stored potential energy to keep closing with the target long after its fuel is exhausted. The legendary AIM-54 Phoenix, carried by the F-14 Tomcat, was famous for climbing to those extreme altitudes before arcing back down to engage bombers 100 miles away. That method works against slow, predictable targets like bombers, tankers, and AWACS surveillance aircraft. But against a maneuvering fighter jet, the missile is coasting on fumes, desperately trying to turn while a target actively tries to shake it. Every evasive maneuver the enemy pilot makes costs the missile energy it no longer has, resulting in a miss. This is why serious analysts pay far more attention to what a missile can do at 50 to 70 miles where it may still be flying under power than at its theoretical maximum. It is also why some experts consider the European MBDA Meteor to be the most dangerous beyond visual range missile currently in service, despite a maximum range of only around 110 miles. The Meteor uses a variable flow ducted rocket ramjet instead of a traditional solid fuel rocket, allowing it to extend powered flight to approximately 70 miles and remain genuinely dangerous at ranges where other missiles are already coasting. The ideal missile engagement is one where the weapon is still burning fuel when it reaches the target, because that is when it has the energy to match a fighter's maneuvers and actually score a hit. So the real question DARPA started asking was this: what if the missile was not launched from 150 miles away, hoping it still had energy left? What if the missile could be brought within 50 miles of the target first, then fired? That required something that could fly into a threat environment, close the gap, and deploy those missiles at the most lethal possible range without putting a pilot at risk. DARPA formally describes the X-68A as an air-launched unmanned air vehicle capable of employing multiple air-to-air weapons. The program has been in development since approximately 2020, when DARPA solicited initial design concepts from General Atomics, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin. All three submitted competing designs in Phase 1, but General Atomics was the only firm selected to move into Phase 2 in 2021 and was later awarded a Phase 3 contract in 2023 to advance toward flight testing. The X-68A designation, officially placing Longshot in the experimental aircraft series, was announced in early 2025, representing a significant milestone in the program's maturation. By February 17 of that year, DARPA confirmed that the X-68A had completed critical ground tests, including full-scale wind tunnel evaluations, parachute recovery trials, and weapons release system demonstrations, and announced that flight testing could begin as early as the end of 2026, backed by a budget of $76.9 million. Renderings released by General Atomics reveal a design that closely resembles a sophisticated cruise missile, which makes sense because that is essentially what it is. The X-68A features an elongated fuselage with a chine nose, and toward the rear, reverse-swept main wings that pop out after launch, while small canards at the front provide additional control authority. Both fold flat during carriage and deploy after launch, much like a switchblade opening midair. The tail configuration is an inverted V-shape with twin vertical surfaces, and a dorsal engine air intake sits atop the fuselage, feeding a single Williams WJ-3815 turbojet, the same power plant used on the German-Swedish Taurus KEPD-350 cruise missile, a 3,000-pound design with a maximum speed of Mach 0.5, pointing to a high subsonic top speed for the X-68A. Internally, the X-68A carries its payload in a bay along the bottom of the fuselage. Renderings have consistently shown the drone carrying at least one AIM-120 advanced medium range air-to-air missile, and some illustrations depict two AMRAAMs, suggesting the internal bay can accommodate multiple weapons depending on mission requirements. The drone is too large to fit in the internal weapons bays of fifth-generation fighters like the F-22 Raptor or F-35 Lightning II, so it will instead be carried externally by fourth-generation fighters, particularly the F-15 family. The new F-15EX Eagle II, with its digital fly-by-wire controls and advanced avionics, is particularly well-suited to carry and control X-68As. But fighters are not the only option. DARPA and General Atomics have discussed launching X-68As from bomber internal bays, with the B-52 Stratofortress, B-1 Lancer, and B-21 Raider all capable of carrying multiple drones deep into contested airspace. Even more intriguing is the possibility of using cargo aircraft with the Rapid Dragon palletized munition system, where a single C-17 Globemaster III could deploy dozens of long-shot drones simultaneously, flooding enemy airspace with air-to-air threats from a platform that would never appear on a standard combat order of battle. At its core, Longshot is a networked weapon. It is not designed to operate on its own with onboard sensors doing all the work, which would dramatically increase cost and complexity. Instead, it relies on a data link architecture connecting it to a wider network of sensors and platforms, receiving live target information from nearby fighters, other drones, surface-based radars, and airborne command and control aircraft. Department of Defense budget documents describe the mission system architecture this way. Longshot will be able to communicate with line-of-sight systems that detect threats, such as multi-role fighters and intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance platforms, as well as beyond line-of-sight systems that provide targeting information to engage enemy air assets. In plain terms, Longshot does not have to see its target, it just has to be told where to go, and it will go there. This matters enormously in a scenario where a launching aircraft is shot down after releasing a drone, because as long as other sensors in the broader network, what the military calls the kill web, are still collecting target data, Longshot keeps hunting. Consider a typical engagement. An F-35 pilot identifies an enemy fighter at extreme range and decides to engage, but even the most advanced missiles lose energy as they fly. And by the time an AMRAAM reaches a target at the edge of its envelope, it may have little maneuvering capability left against a supersonic fighter that is actively evading. Now consider the same scenario with Longshot. The F-35 launches an X-68A from an external station, and the drone's turbojet ignites, flying forward independently, climbing to optimal altitude, accelerating to its best cruise speed, and positioning itself for the engagement, while the F-35 stays at standoff range, safe from enemy counterfire. When the X-68A reaches its launch point, perhaps 50 miles from the target, it opens its internal bay and releases an AIM-120 that has not spent its fuel flying from the F-35's position. It is fresh, fully powered, and already deep inside enemy airspace. The missile streaks toward its target under full power, retaining energy for terminal maneuvers, and the enemy fighter now faces a weapon that can actually match its turns. According to General Atomics spokesperson C. Mark Brinkley, the Longshot was designed with real-world conflict in mind. In actual combat, recovering the aircraft simply isn't practical, nor is it economically necessary. However, during testing and training, the system is fully recoverable, with multiple recovery options built into its design. This brings us to perhaps the most contentious aspect of the concept: cost. The U.S. Air Force is simultaneously developing collaborative combat aircraft, AI-enabled drone wingmen priced at roughly $30 million each, more than an M1A2 Abrams main battle tank. Losing a CCA in combat would hurt not just tactically, but financially. Longshot is designed to be different. As a disposable system, it can afford to be simpler, smaller, and cheaper, and when combined with its ability to carry AIM-120 AMRAAMs that cost between $1 and $2 million per unit, the economics become compelling. If Longshot enables those missiles to achieve higher kill probabilities by delivering them closer to their targets, the overall cost per kill decreases. A missile that misses is wasted money, and a missile that hits is an investment in air superiority. A flight of F-15EX fighters carrying multiple X-68As into the theater creates an immediate targeting dilemma for enemy air defenses. Engaging the drones means revealing radar positions to the launching fighter's electronic warfare suites, while ignoring them means allowing armed drones to close and launch their own weapons. There are no good options, only bad ones and worse ones. Multiple Longshots operating in coordination can approach enemy fighters from different vectors simultaneously, and a pilot trained to track threats from one direction suddenly faces missiles arriving from 3 or 4 angles at once. The cognitive load becomes overwhelming even for the most skilled aviator, because the human brain can only process so much threat information sequentially, and every second spent evaluating incoming threats is a second not spent maneuvering. The saturation potential becomes even more dramatic with cargo aircraft launches through the Rapid Dragon system. A single C-17 deploying dozens of X-68As in one pass creates an air-to-air threat screen across an entire section of the battle space, forcing every interceptor, every surface-to-air battery, and every air defense controller to prioritize under conditions of extreme saturation. Every interceptor fired at a Longshot is one that cannot engage a manned aircraft, and every second an air defense controller tracks a drone is a second of reduced attention to the follow-on strike package. The integration of Longshot into emerging kill web architectures represents its most sophisticated dimension. Traditional kill chains are linear. The sensor detects, the command decides, the shooter engages, and if any link breaks, the entire engagement fails. Kill webs are networked, redundant, and resilient, with multiple sensors feeding multiple shooters and data routing around disruptions. If one node goes down, others take its place, and Longshot is designed from the ground up to operate within these architectures. With this mission system enabling the existing inventory of AIM-120s from fourth-generation platforms to become effective at dramatically longer ranges. Critically, if the launching aircraft is shot down after releasing as drones, the Longshots continue their missions. Control hands off to other assets in the network, and the weapons already in the air remain active threats regardless of what happens to their original carriers. Longshot does not exist in isolation. It is part of a broader ecosystem of unmanned systems now under development for the U.S. military, and the Air Force's Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program has already produced two competing designs under Increment 1, General Atomics YFQ-42A and Anduril's YFQ-44A. David Alexander, president of General Atomics Aeronautical Systems Division, told Breaking Defense that Longshot could be a great fit for Increment 2 of the CCA program, suggesting that the Air Force is carefully considering how these systems complement one another. A future strike package could see F-35 stealth fighters leading the way, accompanied by YFQ-42A CCAs that extend their sensor reach and provide additional firepower. Behind them, F-15E X-Eagles carry X-68A Longshots ready to launch forward when enemy threats emerge, and C-17 packed with Rapid Dragon pallets stand ready to flood the battle space with additional drones. This is not an incremental improvement. It is a fundamental reorganization of how air power is projected. All of this matters because the character of air combat is genuinely changing. China's J-20 stealth fighter, PL-15 long-range missile, and integrated air defense systems represent legitimate peer-level threats, and Russia's S-400 and S-500 systems, while underperforming in Ukraine, still pose real risks. The next major conflict will not be a turkey shoot. In that environment, preserving every manned fighter becomes paramount. An F-35 shot down represents not just a $100 million loss, but the irreplaceable experience of its pilot. An F-22 lost in combat is a loss that can never be made good, since production lines closed years ago. Behind every aircraft loss is a human story. Pilots who have spent years mastering their craft, families waiting for them to return, and squadrons that lose not just equipment, but teammates and leaders. The human cost of air combat extends far beyond the wreckage on the ground. There is also the psychological dimension that technical discussions tend to overlook. A fighter pilot for an adversary air force has trained a lifetime to engage enemy aircraft and understands the ranges, the capabilities, and the tactics. But instead of facing a single known threat, that pilot now faces multiple incoming drones, each capable of launching its own missiles, with no way to tell which are decoys and which are carrying live weapons until it is too late. Every decision becomes a gamble, and every second spent evaluating threats is a second not spent maneuvering, communicating, or fighting. This is what military theorists call imposing multiple dilemmas, forcing an opponent to make choices under conditions of uncertainty, knowing any choice might be the wrong one. Longshot offers a way to project power while preserving both the machines and the people who fly them. It is not a replacement for manned fighters or reusable CCAs, but another tool in the toolbox, one designed specifically for the high-risk missions where sending a pilot is no longer the only option. Patrick Shortsleeve, Vice President of DoD Strategic Development for General Atomics, described the system at the 2025 Air, Space, and Cyber Conference as essentially an air-launched fighter, a smaller uncrewed system capable of carrying air-to-air missiles and being brought into the fight in mass when needed. He called it another iteration of disruption aimed at helping the Air Force revolutionize how air dominance is conducted. The fundamental insight that delivering missiles closer to their targets dramatically increases their effectiveness will remain valid regardless of technical details. Longshot is one expression of that insight, but it will not be the last. Smaller missiles, such as Lockheed Martin's Cuda or Northrop Grumman's Peregrine, could enable future variants to carry more weapons per sortie, and improved engines could extend their operational range considerably. Advanced autonomy could reduce its reliance on external control, making it more resilient in contested electromagnetic environments where communications jamming is an active threat. With the first flight targeting the end of 2026, the world is about to find out whether a missile that fires its own missiles can do exactly what its designers promised. The X-68A carries not just AMRAAMs, but the weight of a new doctrine, one in which the most dangerous thing in the sky is no longer the aircraft with the best pilot, but the network with the most forward-deployed firepower. What does $200 million buy in today's military? Not a fleet of jets or an advanced warship, but one extraordinary drone. This is not an average flying robot. It is a game changer that can stay in the air longer, see farther, and do more than anything that came before it. While most aircraft need to land after a few hours, this drone can circle the Earth twice without ever touching the ground. Why would the military spend this much on a single drone? And what makes this particular aircraft so valuable that it costs more than a town? Join us as we explore the RQ-4 UAV, a groundbreaking aerial powerhouse redefining surveillance, intelligence, and global defense strategies. The Northrop Grumman Global Hawk represents a significant advancement in unmanned aerial surveillance technology. The aircraft specializes in extended duration reconnaissance missions, utilizing sophisticated synthetic aperture radar systems and electro-optical infrared sensors. The United States Air Force operates the Global Hawk as part of its fleet. These planes can fly very high and stay up there for hours, making them perfect for gathering information that helps military operations worldwide. However, the program ended up costing way more than planned. Initially, the Air Force wanted to buy 63 planes, but had to cut that down to 45. Each plane started out costing $10 million in 1994, but by 2001, that price jumped to nearly $61 million per plane. By 2013, each cost over $131 million. Because of these high costs, they considered grounding 21 of their unique intelligence gathering models in 2013. The Air Force worked on 2 robot planes in the 90s to gather intelligence. They had the Dark Star, made by Lockheed Martin, designed to fly without being detected. Their other option was the Global Hawk. When money got tight, they had to pick just one. They went with the Global Hawk because it could fly farther and carry more equipment, even though it was not as stealthy as the Dark Star. They needed the planes to give them an advantage in the Middle East. So the Air Force did not wait for all the testing to finish. They sent these early models straight to Afghanistan to help with the war effort. That is pretty unusual, as usually they would wait until all the testing was done. They built 9 more improved versions, called Block 10 aircraft. 2 of these went to the Navy, and they sent another 2 to Iraq to help. They delivered the last Block 10 plane in 2006. The Global Hawk got an upgrade. Engineers made the nose longer and stretched out the wings. This new version, called Block 20, could carry 3,000 pounds of gear, a big improvement over the original. Northrop Grumman unveiled its upgraded Global Hawk in the year 2006, the 17th one they had built. The plane took its first test flight in 2007, going from Palmdale to Edwards Air Force Base in California. They spent 2008 putting it through its paces, ensuring the improvements worked as planned. The Navy wanted to see if the Global Hawk could work over oceans, so they got 2 Block 10 planes to test. They named them N1 and N2. They did some quick tests at Edwards Air Force Base. Then in 2006, they moved the first plane to their testing site at Patuxent River. A special Navy test group called VX-20 took charge of trying out these maritime patrol versions. The Global Hawk maritime demonstration aircraft first appeared at RIMPAC, a major naval exercise near Hawaii, in July 2006. The drone flew from Point Mugu Naval Base in California, making 4 round trips of about 2,500 miles each way. During its 24 hours in the air, it worked closely with 2 ships, the USS Abraham Lincoln, an aircraft carrier, and the USS Bonhomme Richard, an amphibious assault ship. The Global Hawk's mission was clear: watch the oceans, monitor ships, and take photos during exercises. All the images were sent to Patuxent River Naval Air Station for analysis before being sent to Navy ships near Hawaii. Northrop Grumman saw an opportunity and entered their RQ-4B drone in a Navy competition for a new surveillance aircraft. It paid off. In April 2008, they won a contract worth $1.16 billion. The Navy first called it the RQ-4N, but in 2010, they gave it a new name, the MQ-4C. While the Navy's MQ-4C Triton and Air Force RQ-4 look alike, they serve different purposes. The Air Force model stays at high altitudes, but the Navy's Triton is more flexible. It can fly at 50,000 feet to search large areas, then drop to 10,000 feet to get a better view of what it finds. This unique flight pattern meant the Triton needed special wings. Though they might look like the Air Force version's wings from the outside, they are much more challenging on the inside. They are also built to handle ice, physical damage, and lightning, features the Air Force model doesn't need since it stays high in the sky. On June 17, 2022, the Navy wrapped up a mission that went way longer than planned. They had brought home their last RQ-4 ABAMS-D drone from the Middle East. What started as a 6-month test turned into a 13-year operation. The Navy had bought 5 Block 10 drones, keeping at least one in the Persian Gulf area since 2009. Over the years, they flew 2,069 missions, logging 42,500 hours in the air. They lost 2 drones, one crashed, and Iran shot down another. Now the Navy has switched to using the newer MQ-4C instead. The Global Hawk program ran into financial trouble in mid-2006, when cost per aircraft jumped 25% higher than expected. This happened because they had to fix design problems and add new features. Congress wasn't happy about the rising costs and threatened to shut down the program if they couldn't prove it was worth the money for national security. To save the project, they reorganized everything in June 2006. The Air Force was supposed to finish testing the drone in 2005, but had to push that back to 2007 because of delays in building and developing it. When they finally released their test report in March 2007, they also decided to stretch out production of 54 aircraft until 2015. The Global Hawk ran into big money problems in mid-2006. Each drone cost 25% more than planned because they needed fixes and upgrades. Congress was not pleased about spending more money and said they might cancel the whole thing if it was not helping national security. To keep the program alive, they made significant changes that June. Testing fell behind schedule, too. The Air Force could not finish their review in 2005 as planned. They had to wait until 2007 because building and developing the drones took longer than expected. When they finally finished testing in March 2007, they spread out the work. They'd now build 54 drones over a longer time, finishing in 2015. In early 2011, the Air Force faced a tough choice about the Global Hawk program. They cut their order of Block 40 drones from 22 to 11 to reduce costs. Then things got interesting. That June, the Pentagon's testing team reported problems with the RQ-4B. It was not performing well enough. But in a surprising twist, that same month, the Secretary of Defense declared the Global Hawk essential for national security. They said a few key things. No other aircraft could do the same job for less money. It saved $220 million per year compared to the U-2 spy plane. It could carry more sensors than the U-2 at once. And if they had to cut spending somewhere else to keep it going, they would. In early 2012, the Pentagon shook things up with its drone plans. They dropped the Global Hawk Block 30. It was eating up too much money, and its sensors were not as sharp as those on the older U-2 spy plane. Instead, they focused on buying more of the newer Block 40 model. The Air Force wanted to retire all their Block 30s, but Congress had other ideas. They told the Air Force to keep flying these drones until at least late 2014. By 2013, the Air Force wanted to buy 45 RQ-4B Global Hawks. However, swapping out the U-2 spy plane for these drones raised some worries. General Mike Hostage, who ran Air Combat Command until 2014, warned that military commanders would have to settle for gear that was only 90% as good and deal with that for 8 years. Running the Global Hawk became much cheaper between 2010 and 2013. The cost for each flight hour dropped from $40,600 to $18,900. Much of this saving came from contractor support costs falling from $25,000 to $11,000 per hour. Flying the drones more often helped spread out these support costs. By 2015, the Air Force wanted to retire all U-2s by 2019. But Lockheed Martin, who made the U-2, said their plane could fly until 2050. The plans for these spy planes kept changing. In early 2018, the Air Force put off retiring the U-2 without setting a new date. Then, in 2020, their budget papers were confused by suggesting the U-2 might stop flying in 2025. The Air Force had to step in and clear things up. They were not planning to retire it at all. But here's the twist. In the summer of 2022, they announced they would retire the Global Hawk by 2027 instead. Germany's Air Force ordered a special version of the Romeo Quebec 4 Bravo drone called the Eurohawk. They wanted to use it to replace their old Atlantique spy planes, which were part of their Navy's air fleet. This new drone would be packed with special sensors made by European Aeronautic Defense and Space Company, 6 mounted on the wings. The sensors could detect electronic signals and gather intelligence. They were built to be portable. If needed, they could be moved to other aircraft, including ones flown by pilots. The Eurohawk took off for the first time in 2010, not long after they showed it to the public. After a series of test flights at Edwards Air Force Base in California, it made the long journey to Germany in July 2011. The Germans had a clear goal: outfit the drone with specialized spy sensors and get their crews trained on this new piece of equipment. This was meant to be the first of several Eurohawks for Germany's military, though things didn't quite work out that way. But things got messy. Germany's defense ministry knew in 2011 that getting permission to fly in European airspace would be tricky. The drone had problems with its controls, and Northrop Grumman, who made it, would not share critical technical details that Germany needed to check if it was safe to fly. The German Air Force still hoped to give the drone to their 51st Reconnaissance Wing, but these problems were starting to pile up. German media broke a big story in May 2013. The Eurohawk couldn't get approved to fly in Europe or any country following international rules. The problem? It did not have a system to avoid crashing into other aircraft. Fixing this would cost over 600 million euros, about 780 million US dollars. And here's the kicker. Even after spending all that money, there was no guarantee it would pass inspection. Germany pulled the plug on the whole program 2 days after the news broke. The story took a wild turn. In 2012, Germany's defense minister, Thomas de Maizière, was all in on the Eurohawk. But a year later, he did a complete flip and told Parliament the project was an endless nightmare. The government had burned through 562 million euros before shutting it down. But that was not the end of the story. Northrop Grumman and EDS fought back against the decision. They said the media misunderstood the control issues and the high costs. They even made a bold offer. They would finish testing the first drone and build 4 more, promising to keep costs under control. The Eurohawk pulled off something remarkable. In August 2013, it stayed in the air for more than 25 hours without stopping, reaching 58,600 feet high. No other unmanned aircraft that heavy had ever flown that long in Europe without needing more fuel. President Obama set aside $10 million in 2014 to see if they could move the U-2's advanced sensors to the Global Hawk drone. Northrop Grumman gave it a shot the following year. They took 2 necessary sensors from the U-2, the optical bar camera and one called SIRES, and got them working on the drone. It worked so well that they thought they could do the same upgrade to all their Global Hawks. By July 2015, everything was set. The Air Force and Northrop Grumman decided to try out 2 drones with these sensors. They had to add 17 special mounts and change the drone's bottom cover to make it all fit. After tweaking the software, the new design could hold 540 kilos of sensors in a canoe-shaped bay underneath. Northrop Grumman was not done yet. They planned to add another sensor called the MS-177 to the Global Hawk. This new sensor worked well on the E-8C J-STARS plane and would replace the older SIRES 2. Thanks to a rotating camera mount, it could spot things better and see more around it. In February 2016, they proved they were on the right track when the drone flew successfully with the older SIRES 2 sensor. Raytheon built special defenses for the drone. They added sensors that could tell if someone was trying to track it with lasers or radar. They also gave it jamming gear and a decoy it could pull behind it. The Global Hawk is starting a second career. Instead of flying combat missions, it's being turned into something called a range hawk to help test hypersonic missiles. It's a complete change of mission. Now these drones will look up at missiles flying overhead instead of down at the ground. The Pentagon is adding new sensors and moving equipment to track these super-fast missiles. 24 older drones are being converted, 4 Block 20 and 20 Block 30 models. The switch is already working well. The modified Block 10 Range Hawks helped test hypersonic weapons 10 times in 2023. They even managed 2 tests 10 days apart, one over the Atlantic and another over the Pacific. The Global Hawk is not just one drone, but a system with 2 main parts. First, the RQ-4 aircraft carries all the sensors and communication gear. Then there's the ground control, split in 2. One team handles takeoff and landing, while another runs the actual mission. The RQ-4 runs on a Rolls-Royce turbofan engine that puts out 7,050 pounds of thrust. It can carry up to 2,000 pounds of equipment. The body is made from aluminum with a V-shaped tail, and the wings are built from strong composite materials. The Global Hawk started with a model called the RQ-4A Block 10. This first version could carry 2,000 pounds of gear, including radar, regular cameras, and infrared sensors for taking detailed pictures. The military built 7 but stopped using them by 2011. The first production model was the RQ-4A, made for the United States Air Force. 16 of these aircraft were built in total. The later RQ-4B version had several improvements, notably a larger payload capacity. Its wingspan was extended to 130.9 feet, 39.9 meters, and its length grew to 47.7 feet, 14.5 meters. These size and payload increases did come with a trade-off, though. The aircraft's range dropped to 8,700 nautical miles, 16,100 kilometers. NATO developed the RQ-4D Phoenix specifically for its Alliance ground surveillance program. Germany created the RQ-4E Eurohawk version, building on the RQ-4B design, but adding special EADs equipment for gathering intelligence signals. While Germany planned to buy 5 Eurohawks, they scrapped the program in May 2013 after getting just 1 aircraft. The MQ-4C Triton, previously known as the RQ-4N, was developed for the United States Navy to handle broad maritime surveillance. The Navy has ordered 4 and plans to get 68 of them eventually. The EQ-4B variant is equipped with special communications gear called the Battlefield Airborne Communications Node System, or BACN. Finally, a proposed KQX version would have worked as a self-flying refueling tanker, though this never reached the planning stage. These upgrades show how the Global Hawk kept getting better at its job. It was adapted to meet new military needs, from taking pictures to relaying messages. The switch from a 2,000-pound to a 3,000-pound payload meant it could carry more advanced gear, making it more useful in more situations. The future of warfare is taking a bold leap forward, and it's all thanks to one incredible innovation: the anti-gravity kamikaze drones. Designed to defy the limitations of traditional aerial combat, these drones are poised to revolutionize the battlefield in ways the world has never seen before. With the United States leading the charge, these drones are set to become a game changer, capable of striking with speed and precision that traditional weaponry can't match. What makes anti-gravity kamikaze drones a game changer for the future of warfare? How will the United States leverage this innovative technology to outpace traditional combat strategies on the battlefield? Join us as we uncover how these drones operate and what makes them so deadly. Kamikaze drones are a new breed of weapon that can stay in the air and patrol an area until a target is detected. Unlike traditional drones, which focus on surveillance, these weapons carry warheads that are designed to crash into and destroy their targets. By loitering in the vicinity, they provide military forces with a faster response time, ensuring that high-value jets don't need to get close to dangerous zones. The drones can also change their course mid-flight or abort the mission entirely, giving operators flexibility in real time. Once launched, an unmanned combat aerial vehicle works differently. It's built to fly out, drop weapons, and return home for another day. Unlike cruise missiles, they can circle an area for hours, feeding their handler with live information. This capacity provides a great advantage. If a target moves under cover, operators can wait it out. If civilians are present, the attack can be delayed until they leave. The concept of loitering munitions dates back to the 1980s, when they were first used in operations to suppress enemy air defenses, particularly targeting surface-to-air missile systems. By the 1990s, military forces had deployed them for special roles. Their potential soon expanded, and in the 2000s, loitering weapons started being developed for more diverse applications. These included long-range strikes as well as tactical, short-range battlefield operations, with some models small enough to fit into a backpack, making them incredibly versatile. The first loitering munitions had a few interesting early versions. The US AGM-136 Tacit Rainbow program is often seen as one of the first major steps in developing this technology. Israel also made significant contributions during the 1980s with the development of Delilah variants. Similarly, Iran's Ababa-1, whose exact production timeline remains uncertain, played a role in advancing this technology. Before these weapons received their loitering munition designation, military developers struggled with classification terminology. The AGM-136 shifted between various labels, sometimes categorized as an unmanned aerial vehicle, other times as a cruise missile, or occasionally as a standoff weapon. A 1988 article captured this confusion perfectly. It described the Tacit Rainbow as a pilotless jet that could stay high in the sky, waiting before swooping down to destroy enemy radar sites. Imagine a high-stakes game of detection and evasion playing out across Cold War battlefields. Soviet engineers developed formidable surface-to-air missile systems, the 75 and 125, capable of striking American aircraft with alarming precision. In response, the United States countered with the AGM-45 Shrike, a smart missile designed to home in on enemy radar signals and destroy the fixed missile sites before they could launch. But the Soviets did not give up that easily. They created mobile missile launchers like the 2K-12 Kub that could quickly move to new positions and only turn on their radar when ready fire, making them nearly impossible to track. This unhealthy game of hide-and-seek created a desperate need for a new kind of weapon, one that could patiently hide in the sky, scanning for enemy signals and striking only when the perfect moment arrived. This need was what gave birth to loitering munitions. One of the most important moments in how these weapons evolved came during Israel's 1982 Operation Mole Cricket 19. In this operation, Israel used a mix of unmanned aerial vehicles, air-launched decoys, and other tactics to trick and overwhelm enemy surface-to-air missiles. These strategies were designed to force the enemy to turn on their radar systems, which were then targeted by anti-radiation missiles. The success of this operation showed the United States how loitering munitions could play a key role in warfare by offering a way to counter the growing threats from advanced air defense systems. These drones come in all shapes and sizes. Some are simple, just regular drones with bombs attached. Others are fancy purpose-built machines, but they all work the same basic way. Pack explosives, fly to a target, and blow up on impact. The advanced models have better flight control, a bigger boom, and high-tech sensors to find and hit targets dead on. Some have argued that a loitering munition is just a flying bomb and that it is not super complicated. But don't underestimate them. When a swarm of kamikaze drones comes at a target, it's bad news no matter how basic they might be under the hood. The power of these munitions lies in their collective application and autonomous functionality. When multiple units operate in concert, they create battlefield effects that far exceed the sum of their basic components, demonstrating how even technologically straightforward platforms can deliver significant strategic advantages when properly deployed. While some are remotely piloted by human operators, others like the IA-IHEROP can operate autonomously. The HEROP, for example, searches for targets and launches attacks without needing human input. Another example, the U-Vision HERO, is controlled in real time by an operator through a communication system. It is equipped with an electro-optical camera, allowing the operator to receive live images from the battlefield and make informed decisions. Not all loitering munitions are used in a one-way mission. Some, especially UAVs with secondary explosive capabilities, have the option to return to their operator and be recovered if they are not used in an attack. This feature gives the operator more flexibility, as they can avoid wasting valuable resources if the mission is called off or the target is no longer a threat. These systems can be especially useful in situations where the target changes or new intelligence is received during the mission. However, not all loitering munitions offer this recovery option. Systems like the Delilah are designed to be expendable, meaning they self-destruct if the mission is aborted or the target is not engaged. These munitions are built for missions where a direct strike is expected and any deviation from that course destroys the drone. This ensures that the weapon is not wasted, but it also means that there is no option for the operator to reuse the device if the mission changes. Since the spring of 2022, Russia has been deploying Zala Lancet drones in Ukraine, targeting enemy artillery with deadly precision. In response, Ukrainian forces have adapted by building protective cages around their artillery pieces, using materials like chain-link fences, wire mesh, and even wooden logs. These makeshift defenses are designed to disrupt the Lancet drones, with reports suggesting that such efforts have saved Ukrainian equipment. Ukraine's drone sniping tactics are just one part of the ongoing battle for air superiority. While they are busy taking potshots at Russian drones, the Russians are fighting back with electronic warfare. The Stupor anti-drone rifle is a key weapon in Russia's arsenal. It blasts out an electromagnetic pulse that scrambles a drone's GPS, leaving it lost and confused. No fancy navigation, no problem. And the Russians have been putting their electronic warfare units to good use. By spring 2022, they were knocking out or shooting down a whopping 90% of Ukraine's drones. That's some serious drone destruction. How do they do it? By jamming GPS signals and radio communications? It's like kicking the drone's eyes and ears out all at once. So while Ukraine's playing the sniper game, Russia's going high-tech with gadgets and electronic wizardry. It is a full-on duel for drone domination. Both sides have increasingly turned to electronic warfare as a countermeasure against FPV drones. Ukraine has equipped its trenches and vehicles with jammers, while Russia has developed portable jammers small enough to be carried by soldiers in backpacks. As of June 2023, Ukrainian forces were reportedly losing anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 drones a month. That works out to around 160 drones every single day. Losing that many drones drives home how hard it is for Ukraine to keep control of their drone operations during this war. In response to these challenges, Russia has developed wire-guided FPV drones, a shift designed to make them immune to jamming. These drones, using fiber optic cables for guidance, ensure a stable link between the operator and the drone, even in areas where radio contact is weak. This technology provides faster and clearer updates from the drone while keeping the operators and drones' locations hidden from enemy signals. However, these wire-guided drones come with trade-offs, including reduced range, payload, and maneuverability compared to their wireless counterparts. To counter this, Ukraine has turned to autonomous drones capable of continuing their mission even when jammed, as seen in March 24, when a Ukrainian FPV drone, despite losing operator control, successfully hit its target. Big news hit on the 21st of March, 2024. Someone got a video of the Russian sub-Tula decked out in slat armor. It looked like they put that on to protect against drone attacks. This was huge. It was the first time anyone had seen an ocean-going Navy ship fitted with this kind of defense against drones. Navies are starting to realize they need new ways to defend against the threat of drones and robot weapons. The Tula's slat armor is a big sign of that. It showed that militaries are adapting, coming up with new armor and defenses as drones become a bigger deal in war. When comparing cruise missiles, loitering munitions, and unmanned combat aerial vehicles, several important distinctions become apparent in their design philosophy and operational capabilities. Cruise missiles are designed as expendable, one-time use weapons. They feature built-in warheads and typically execute a stealthy final approach to their targets. Their operational profile doesn't include loitering capabilities, as they are optimized for direct flight paths to predetermined targets. These systems generally have limited sensor suites for target acquisition and minimal in-flight control options once launched. Their design prioritizes longer range and higher speeds, making them ideal for striking distant fixed targets with precision. Loitering munitions, in contrast, while also expendable and single-use, introduce the critical capability of loitering over potential target areas. Like cruise missiles, they contain built-in warheads and typically employ stealthy terminal approaches. However, They differ significantly in their comprehensive sensor packages that enable active target acquisition and their extensive in-flight control capabilities. These systems operate at lower speeds but compensate with the ability to patrol an area while searching for targets of opportunity. Unmanned combat aerial vehicles are a whole different ballgame. They are not like the kamikaze drones that just fly one-way missions and blow up. They are meant to be reused, flying out and back again. They don't have built-in bombs. Instead, they carry weapons that they can drop when needed. They are not as sneaky when they approach targets compared to the drones specifically designed for strikes. Where they shine is how long they can hang around an area, the high-tech sensors they have, and how much control operators have over them during flight. They can't fly as far as one-way drones since they have to come back home, but they make up for it by being able to stay in the air a lot longer. So while kamikaze drones are all about flying far and blowing up, UCAVs are more like the workhorses. They can loiter, spy, and drop bombs, all while being controlled by someone far away. It's a different approach, but one that's useful for certain missions. The Block 4 Tomahawk cruise missile is a great example of what these missiles can do. It can fly 1,600 kilometers at a speed of 880 kilometers per hour. That's pretty fast for a missile. Not supersonic, but not slow. It's powered by a turbofan engine that pushes with a force of 3.1 kilonewtons. That engine keeps it in the air for around 2 hours. This missile is not lightweight. When it's fully loaded, it weighs 1,588 kilograms, and a big chunk of that, 450 kilograms, is the warhead. That's the boom at the end. Size-wise, it's 6.25 meters long. The wingspan isn't huge, just 2.67 meters. That's because it's built for speed, not for hanging around in the air for a long time. The IAI Harop is a good example of a loitering munition. It can fly 1,000 kilometers, but it's not as fast as the Tomahawk. It tops out at 190 kilometers per hour. But here's the thing, it can stay in the air for 6 hours, triple what the Tomahawk can do. That's thanks to its Wankel engine, which puts out 37 horsepower. All that time in the air means it can hunt for targets. It's a lot lighter than the other two drones we looked at. Fully loaded, it weighs just 135 kilograms, and its warhead is 23 kilograms. So it's light, but it still packs a punch. Size-wise, it's 2.5 meters long with a 3-meter wingspan. That shape helps it fly efficiently, but also loiter around when it needs to. So while it can't fly as fast as the Tomahawk, the Harop makes up for it with longer flight time and good loitering ability. It's built to hang around, find a target, and then dive in for the kill. The MQ-1 Predator UCAV can fly 1,100 kilometers. It tops out at 217 kilometers per hour. The engine is a 115 horsepower Rotax 914F. It's a beast. Keeps the drone up for 24 hours straight. Fully loaded, this thing weighs 1,020 kilograms. It can carry 204 kilograms of weapons. We're talking Hellfire missiles, Griffin missiles, serious hardware. The Predator is 8.2 meters long. The wings are 16.8 meters wide. That's what gives it all that airtime. Leaves room for plenty of sensors too. So yeah, the Predator goes far, goes fast, and hits hard. It's a force to be reckoned with in the sky. These three systems represent distinct approaches to unmanned aerial weapons technology. Each system addresses specific operational requirements in modern warfare, with selection depending on mission parameters, target characteristics, available infrastructure, and budgetary constraints. While almost any UAV could be piloted to crash into a target, and most could be modified with improvised explosive warheads, their main purpose is different. UAVs and UCAVs are typically designed for recoverable operations, such as reconnaissance or carrying munitions. One example of a purpose-built loitering munition is the NCSIST Qianxiang, a system designed for one-time use. They are built to reach the target area and strike with precision before self-destructing. These munitions are designed with characteristics that favor a short engine lifespan, silent operation during the strike, and a quick, effective dive. Their focus is on loitering time rather than range or speed, making them ideal for one-off missions. The primary advantage of loitering munitions is their low unit cost, which makes them suitable for disposable missions. Unlike UAVs, which are multi-use platforms with higher costs, Loitering munitions are specifically engineered for expendable use, making them an economical and effective solution for precise strikes. This unique design allows for specialized missions where cost and effectiveness are paramount, ensuring that the munition serves its purpose without the need for recovery or reuse. The use of loitering munitions that can decide to attack on their own without human control raises big moral, ethical, and legal problems. Unlike regular fire-and-forget missiles, which are aimed at specific targets, these systems make their own decisions without a human deciding when to strike. This lack of human involvement, especially when it comes to dangerous attacks, makes people worry about who is responsible if something goes wrong and if targets are wrongly hit. This issue has become a major topic in discussions about international law. Unlike other guided weapons that acquire targets after launch or use sensor-based triggering, autonomous loitering munitions feature significantly extended flight duration, enabling independent target acquisition. Traditional missiles typically target areas with confirmed enemy presence, whereas loitering munitions are deployed to regions with potential enemy activity, conducting prolonged surveillance and target identification operations that may extend for hours. Although some systems may request final authorization from a human operator before attacking, the decision-making process is largely automated, raising concerns over control and the potential for unintended consequences. The IAI Harpy and IAI Hareup are often mentioned in discussions about autonomous loitering munitions. These systems are among the pioneers in setting standards for autonomous flight and targeting functions in aerial systems. These drones last longer and work more independently than typical cruise missiles. They can wait in an area, look for targets, and decide when to attack without a person directly controlling them. While not exactly like naval mines, they represent a big step forward in how long and how well autonomous weapons can operate. As military technology advances, the ethical concerns surrounding autonomous loitering munitions continue to spark heated discussions. These drones' ability to make their own decisions on the battlefield challenges current systems of accountability and raises tough questions about the future of warfare. As these powerful technologies become a part of modern military tactics, it will be essential to carefully balance efficiency, control, and the protection of human life moving forward. Over the years, military technology has continued to evolve, with top players like the United States, Russia, and China at the forefront of this evolution. However, in recent times, the United States has once again rocked the world by introducing its $150 million drone, the SR-72, son of Blackbird. Following the display of this aerial maverick in the United States, China has especially been looking to rival this potential aerial dominance. How intimidating is the SR-72 for other top nations? Is there a chance that it sparks a global arms race? Join us as we discuss China's fear of the United States' new spy drone. Since time immemorial, aerial warfare has always been about wit, intelligence, and courage. However, as time unfolds with glimpses into the future of warfare, a bigger win percentage is attributed to those who can control the skies. This is where the United States has thrived, with the explicit creation of amazing aircraft built for war. Although the United States has been at the forefront of this arms race, leading the pack with immaculate inventions like the F-22 Raptor, the B-2 Spirit, and the SR-71 Blackbird, other countries like Germany, the Kremlin, and the kings of the Indo-Pacific region, China, have postured as a viable threat to the sustained aerial dominance of the United States. While these countries have sometimes successfully matched up to the level of mental acuity required to be at the top of the summit in aerial warfare, the United States is now teasing the release of a drone that takes intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, popularly called the ISR missions, to the next level, leaving everyone behind. The popular intelligence coming from the front desk news in the United States describes this new drone as an upgraded variation of the SR-71 Blackbird. The world of military defense has speculated about the existence of this project for many years, but the United States, being a hub of secret missions and national intelligence, has shut down the speculation with reckless abandon, keeping the world in the dark about their next military move. However, the SR-72 son of Blackbird seems to be teetering on the precipice of being announced to the world in 2025 as the United States reportedly prepares to unveil this aerial beast at an aerospace air show to send a message of strength to the rest of the world. Knowing fully well the dangers that come with being at the bottom of the food chain as far as air power is concerned, the People's Republic of China has reportedly shown serious concern towards the continuous upscaling of the United States' aerial stature. Although the United States continues to hide its hands, keeping certain information about this new drone away from the public, rumors of leaked images that have successfully landed right on the laps of countries in Europe and Asia seem not to go away. Ergo, China especially, which is reportedly panicking at the situation, has been rumored to step up its aerial combat technology, hoping to rival the potential dominance of the United States. With the continuous heralding of leaked images serenading the internet, it has become almost impossible for rival nations to avoid the elephant in the room. However, to fully understand why other nations are afraid of the mere concept of the SR-72 son of Blackbird, let alone its existence, we must discuss its predecessor, the SR-71 Blackbird. As far as building aircraft is concerned, the United States boasts some of the best aircraft builders in the world, especially with companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. In the late 50s, the United States used to make do with the reconnaissance aircraft, U-2, which was designed for purely reconnaissance missions for the Central Intelligence Agency, popularly called the CIA. However, in the late 1950s, the Central Intelligence Agency discovered a need for an undetectable spy plane, leading them once again to Lockheed Martin, a company known for its superb aerospace designs mainly for military and government use. The project was codenamed Archangel and led by Kelly Johnson, the head of Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division in California. The Archangel project was the birth of mind-boggling aircraft that could avoid radar detection, and Lockheed's Skunk Works division finally came up with the A-10 in 1958. However, it just wasn't good enough for the Central Intelligence Agency. The shape was deemed way too susceptible to early radar detectors. Ergo, it needed to be modified. The Skunk Works division took on the challenge and remodeled their masterpiece into the A-12 Oxcart, which was a less radar-reflective version of the A-10. Following the success of the remodeled A-10, the Central Intelligence Agency approved a $90 million project to build a dozen of the A-12s in February 1960. However, it wasn't long before radar technology was improved, making the A-12 almost useless after about 20 years. And just like that, necessity beckons again to the Central Intelligence Agency, which then calls out to Lockheed Martin in hopes of a new spy plane that combats the latest aerial defenses at the time. The A-12 had become an easy target for what passed as the new radar technology at the time. Ergo, it was easily taken out by aerial defenses, which included surface-to-air missiles, or SAM, in military parlance. Immediately, the Central Intelligence Agency figured out the need for an upgrade. The project's budget was cut, ergo its cancellation, which was announced on December 28, 1966. In 1962, the United States Air Force ordered a variant of the A-12, which they designated as the YF-12. The latter, which was used in the Air Force, had more fighter interceptor missions, unlike the original A-12s, which were used for reconnaissance missions. However, as the years passed by, the A-12 versions were remodeled into the SR-71 Blackbird, a monster-manned reconnaissance aircraft that is nigh invisible to most anti-aircraft technology. The former version of the A-12 and other A-series in the Archangel project were completely different from the SR-71 Blackbird in so many facets. For some context, the SR-71 was built with tandem cockpits, meaning that the crew sits right behind each other rather than in the usual side-to-side designs. The crew comprises a pilot and a reconnaissance systems officer who navigated and operated the surveillance systems. It was extremely important for the pilot and the reconnaissance systems officer, or RSO, to work in tandem to secure the safety of the flight. Owing to the demands of the United States Air Force, Lockheed made sure that the aircraft had the smallest radar cross-section that they could achieve at the time, kicking off an early attempt at stealth. However, since the aircraft was designed mainly for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR missions as they are popularly called, Lockheed figured that they needed more than a small radar cross-section. Ergo, they took other precautions. For some context, the SR-71 was painted jet black for two reasons. First, it made it super difficult to detect in the sky, especially at night. Think of it like being dressed all in black at night while playing a hide-and-seek game. It was the perfect condition for a person to never get noticed. Furthermore, aside from the black paint making it difficult for the radar technology, it also radiates the heat from the surface of the aircraft better than the bare metal designs that have been used in the past. With the help of the jet black paint, the heat coming from the friction that comes with flying at Mach 3 is spread evenly across the body and is dissipated just as fast. Owing to this quick reaction to heat and how fast it cools off, the SR-71 was undetectable to thermal or infrared sensors, as its heat signature is nigh impossible to read because of how quickly it cools off. While it sounds like the perfect aircraft, it definitely had its own problems. For some context, the SR-71 Blackbird was built with 85% titanium, with the other 15% being polymer composite materials. But the question is, why build with hardware as expensive as titanium instead of bare metal? Titanium is fantastic for building an aircraft that will be traveling at supersonic speed, like the Blackbird, owing to its endurance for heat without getting bent out of shape. However, there was a small problem with building using titanium at the time. Lockheed found out that it was difficult to weld titanium and bend it into shape, but it was also a better fit because of its resistance to heat, while also being super difficult to wash. For example, it would be easier to wash bare metal with tap water, but titanium can only be washed with distilled water because it can be corroded by the presence of chlorine in tap water. Also, special tools were required to fit the pieces of titanium together, mainly because most tools at the time were plated with cadmium, which also causes corrosion in titanium. For the stated reasons, Lockheed had to develop new ways to not only fit the titanium into building the Blackbird, but also find new ways to make sure it suited the aerodynamics required to make it functional. Owing to the high temperature that is generated from the friction during flight at 3 times the speed of sound, the aircraft needed to be designed and operated specially. For some context, most aircraft have major sections of their skin completely smooth, but the case was different with the Blackbird. The Blackbird has major parts of the inboard wing skin corrugated, meaning that they are wrinkly. It seemed rather disturbing at the time because it broke every norm that was associated with building aircraft at the time. As expected, there were scientists, especially aerodynamicists, who believed that the design would have an adverse effect on the aircraft and likened it to a 1920s-era Ford trimotor aircraft. However, Lockheed, which had done enough research on the matter, chose to stick to its guns, and it paid off massively. While it sounded completely out of the box and basic, the rationale was quite simple. If the aircraft had followed the natural principles of design, which do not allow for corrugated body designs on an aircraft, the heat from flying at that speed would have split or curled the aircraft, causing potential damage in flight and possibly causing the aircraft to crash, leading to loss of lives, whereas having the skin corrugated gave it the opportunity to expand both horizontally and vertically when the heat inevitably came from the friction during flight, while increasing its longitudinal strength. While the aircraft seems to be solid on the outside, how does the crew cope with the heat from the exterior that just might seep into the interior? The Lockheed Skunk Works division created an outer windscreen of the cockpit that has 3 layers of really thick glass, making it resistant to the heat from the flight, which can reach up to almost 600 degrees Fahrenheit. However, owing to the lack of GPS at the time, the outer windscreen, which contained the astro-inertial systems, or ANS, was also made of solid quartz crystals, which were capable of also handling the heat without shattering when the heat inevitably came during flight. The astro-inertial system, or ANS technology, remains one of the smartest inventions in the history of aircraft. It was the perfect combination of nature and science. The astro-inertial system, or ANS, was the guide for the crew, using the stars to judge the location of the aircraft, telling them exactly where they were. In fact, it was capable of leading the crew within 100 meters of its target. However, the burgeoning question is, how does one weld a material as hard as solid quartz to a titanium frame? The Lockheed engineers devised a smarter plan, using ultrasonic sound to fit both hard materials together, It was almost like vibrating two different pieces of hard metal together until they fused into one. The SR-71 was highly capable of stealth and reconnaissance. Hence, it was doing its job to perfection, but there was a small irony regarding how it was built. The aircraft, which was built during the Cold War, most definitely required a huge amount of titanium. However, there was only one new country with enough titanium to affect the build, and that country was the Soviet Union, the same one that the United States hoped to spy on with this spy plane. Hence, the United States used shell companies to secretly buy the titanium in bulk under the guise of commercial purposes, and then it was supplied to Lockheed Martin. Fun fact, the Soviet Union indirectly funded the spy plane that cost them the war. Following the success of the SR-71 and its use to spy on the Soviet Union and Communist China in the late 60s and early 70s, the rest of the world paid more attention to the growing aerial dominance that the United States was showing the world. China, which had tried to take down the Blackbird while it flew over Hanoi and Haiphong using more than 800 SA-2 missiles and failed terribly during the Vietnam War, decided to respond with a reconnaissance drone of its own that matched the Blackbird's reconnaissance capabilities and also its deep penetration capability. However, before they could come up with a penetrative, high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft like the SR-72 Blackbirds, the United States had already shut down the program in 1990. It was a difficult bargain trying to outdo an already closed program, but the People's Republic of China did not see it that way. Instead, they saw it as an opportunity to gain an advantage over the United States in the air. However, despite their continuous shot to create a reconnaissance aircraft that contends with the SR-71, they only came up with aircraft and drones that almost mirror the capability of the SR-71, but just do not match it. For some context, China released the CASC Rainbow CH-1, which made its first appearance in the year 2000. The aircraft is an unmanned aerial vehicle, otherwise called a UAV, that was capable of reconnaissance missions, meaning that it was designed to be a spy plane like the SR-71 Blackbird. However, the CH-1 was barely even scratching the surface of the marvel that the SR-71 Blackbird was. China, of course, was not oblivious to the fact, so they ramped up their research, hoping to catch up with the top countries, trying not to get left behind in the global arms race in search of aerial dominance. War specialists over the years have discussed the power of ruling the air as the biggest power that an opposition can have, as it ensured their superiority and their greatness over their opponent. Like Winston Churchill once said, "For good or for ill, air mastery is today the supreme expression of military power, and fleets and armies, however vital and important, must accept a subordinate rank." Air power has never been negotiable, and China knew it too, especially since they have been trying to take over Taiwan, but have been stopped dead in their tracks by the United States at every turn. But while China has failed to match up to the once SR-71 Blackbird in the past, the future has started to appear a bit bleaker in Beijing with the ravaging news of the son of Blackbird, the $150 million drone, with superior reconnaissance capability in comparison with the SR-71 Blackbird. According to some reports, news of this new air maverick has sent shivers down the spine of the Indo-Pacific nation, who had until now distorted the power structures in Asia, with their continuous interest in expanding the Air Defense Identification Zone, otherwise called ADIZ, taking up zones that officially did not belong to them, but they are willing to fight Japan and the United States while advancing it to the East China Sea. China's Ministry of National Defense declared that it would begin enforcing its rules in its Air Defense Identification Zone at 10 a.m. on November 23, 2013. The rules demand that any aircraft flying in the Air Defense Identification Zone must report a flight plan to the Chinese government, maintain radio communication, and respond to identification inquiries from the Chinese government, maintain radar transponder function, and exhibit clear nationality and logo markings. And the announcement warned that China's armed forces will adopt defensive emergency measures to respond to aircraft that do not cooperate in the identification. While the warnings scared off a lot of the countries in the Indo-Pacific region that do not have the military might to contend with China's extensive military and war technology, the United States was there once again to prove its dominance as the superior state, which the Chinese government would think twice before crossing, owing to its military capabilities. To test that theory, President Washington ordered the deployment of 2 unarmed B-52 bombers on a training mission to fly right over the air defense identification zone that China cherished so much, challenging their authority right under their noses. However, China responded with a reverberating silence that echoed through the Indo-Pacific regions and the world as a whole. The world watched China squirm without so much as a bark at the United States, let alone a bite. However, while the People's Republic has continuously developed aircraft in a bid to match up to the United States' dominance, reports suggest that they are quaking in their boots as a response to the SR-72, son of Blackbird, which is supposed to be at least 2 times faster than the Blackbird, which operated at Mach 3 speed. The Lockheed Martin SR-72 is now being developed as a hypersonic unmanned reconnaissance drone, meaning that it could be sent beyond enemy lines without the fear of a soldier being captured and possibly tortured into giving up his country's plans, as was done during World War II. With this development, China is reportedly in a state of worry, foreboding the complete dominance the son of Blackbird could bring. The United States is about to shock the world with a brand new technology. This aviation marvel, the MQ-25 Stingray, is the first unmanned aircraft in history to ever refuel other aircraft. This drone is built to evade enemy radar and revolutionize aerial refueling. But that's not all. It can be launched from aircraft carriers, extending the reach of United States naval operations like never before. What are the features of this aircraft that made it different from other aircraft? What are the primary missions of the MQ-25 Stingray in naval operations? Join us as we unveil the features of MQ-25 and the development over the years. Unmanned aerial vehicles have transformed military operations worldwide, playing important roles in both reconnaissance and combat. These advanced technologies allow for real-time monitoring of conflict zones without risking pilot lives. UAVs are versatile, with some designed for surveillance and others for offensive missions, and they vary in range and endurance, making them adaptable to diverse mission requirements. It's no secret that American technologies occupy a leading position among the world's manufacturers, and today there's a list of the 10 best American unmanned aerial vehicles. MQ-1DC Gray Eagle, RQ-4 Global Hawk, MQ-4C Triton, RQ-7 Shadow, MQ-8B Fire Scout, MQ-9 Reaper, CQ-10 Snow Goose, RQ-11 Raven, RQ-12 Wasp, and RQ-20 Puma, while MQ-25 Stingray and Horse A are still in development. Unmanned aircraft systems are becoming more and more important in the military at previously unheard-of rates. Over 100,000 flight hours were completed in 2005 by unmanned aircraft operating at the tactical and theater levels in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, which were coordinated by Task Force in Iraq and Task Force Liberty in Afghanistan. Rapid technological advancements allowed the United States to deploy increasingly more capabilities on smaller airframes during the missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. The number of unmanned systems deployed on the battlefield has increased significantly since the United States withdrew from the Middle East and Central Asia, and this trend has persisted throughout both conflicts. Armed unmanned aerial vehicles were first employed in 2001 when the Central Intelligence Agency's MQ-1 Predator was used to deliver anti-tank missiles into Afghanistan. Although there are claims that millions of unmanned aerial vehicle flight hours have now been recorded, and this started in 2006. The United States continues to fund research and development for unmanned systems of all kinds, which results in advancements that allow them to carry out a wide range of tasks. While intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions continue to be the principal functions of unmanned aerial vehicles, they are no longer the only ones they carry out. Their responsibilities have grown to encompass combat search and rescue, network node or communications relay, drone strikes, electronic attack, suppression or destruction of enemy air defense, and variations on these themes. With aircraft weighing less than 1 pound to more than 40,000 pounds, the cost of these unmanned systems varies from a few $1,000s to tens of millions of dollars. The Navy started looking for an aircraft carrier-based unmanned aerial vehicle in 2006, and that was when the idea on the MQ-25 Stingray got underway. In order to breach enemy defenses and launch its armaments covertly, the Navy desired a stealth drone. The Navy diminished the drone strike capabilities in favor of information, surveillance, and reconnaissance after 6 years of effort, changing the parameters. After so many years of going back and forth regarding the capabilities of the drone being able to specialize in surveillance or delivering weapons, it was decided in 2016 that MQ-25 would be an aerial refueling drone that would be the same size as F/A-18F Super Hornet. It was agreed that MQ-25 offers enhanced flexibility for naval forces. It is also cost-effective because the adoption of unmanned systems and using unmanned systems reduces risk to human pilots. This drone is the best to use in high-risk operations because it can be deployed in dangerous situations, protecting the pilots from exposure during fuel transfer or reconnaissance operations. The Stingray symbolizes innovation in global naval aviation capabilities, designed with adaptability in mind. The use of airborne refueling decreases the time aircraft spend on the deck of the carrier, allowing for quicker turnaround and increased sortie rates. The MQ-25 Stingray has two main segments, which are the air vehicle segment and the ground segment. The actual drone structure and its features, such as design and configuration, make up the air vehicle section. The MQ-25's aerodynamic, streamlined design is tailored for carrier operations. It can perform well in flight because of its wingspan of about 75 feet and resemblance to traditional fighter aircraft. By serving as a mobile filling station in the sky, the MQ-25's substantial fuel capacity allows it to increase the range of carrier-based aircraft. In order to support intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance tasks, it can also hold a variety of sensors and payloads. Because of its turbofan engine, the UAV can travel at speeds that are on par with those of other carrier-based aircraft. With a fighting radius that can go well beyond the carrier's own, it can support a variety of missions with flexibility. The MQ-25 can carry out missions with little assistance from humans because it is built for autonomous operations. It can maneuver, avoid obstacles, and accomplish complex tasks in tandem with other assets thanks to its sophisticated avionics and software. The drone is designed to work in unison with the launch and recovery technologies already in place at carriers. This guarantees that it may be successfully launched from aircraft carriers without requiring significant adjustments to the operations of the current carrier strike group. The ground control stations and other systems used to operate and control the MQ-25 when it is not in flight are included in the ground segment. The unmanned aerial vehicle is launched, tracked, and managed by operators via ground control stations. These stations' intuitive user interfaces enable mission planning and real-time data processing. Secure speech and data links between the unmanned aerial vehicle and the operators on the ground or in the carrier are made possible by the MQ-25's advanced communication equipment. This makes it possible to continuously assess the situation and modify the mission. Pre-flight inspections, post-mission analysis, and maintenance logistical support are all included in the ground segment. The MQ-25 can be deployed rapidly and put back into service with little downtime thanks to effective logistics. Advanced software tools facilitate the analysis of data gathered during flights and aid in mission planning. For improving upcoming missions and honing strategies, this information may be essential. Through unmanned refueling and support missions, the MQ-25 Stingray greatly improves the operational capabilities of aircraft carriers by fusing these two elements into a flexible and potent tool for contemporary naval warfare. Boeing provided visuals of its first pre-production example of the MQ-25 Stingray tanker drone, and up to this point, the MQ-25 demonstrator has been the public face of the Stingray program. To design an aircraft focused on information, surveillance, and reconnaissance that could be rapidly produced to carry out low-intensity counterterrorism missions, lethality and strike criteria were relaxed in 2012. Additionally, it solves the carrier's requirement for an organic refueling aircraft, which has been suggested for the unmanned carrier-launched airborne surveillance and strike since 2014. This would allow the 20 to 30% of Super Hornets to complete the mission more effectively and economically than modifying the F-35, V-22 Osprey, and E-2D Hawkeye, or bringing the retired S-3 Viking back into service. A formal request for proposal was anticipated in 2017, 4 development contracts were awarded in 2016, and operational status was anticipated in the early to mid-20s. In July 2016, it was officially named MQ-25 Stingray after being named RAC-25 previously. According to Michael Manazir, the MQ-25 can increase the Super Hornet's unrefined combat radius from 450 nautical miles to more than 700 nautical miles. With a range of 500 nautical miles, the Navy wants the aircraft to be able to transport 15,000 pounds, 6,800 kilograms, of fuel to 4 or 6 aircraft. In October of 2017, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and General Atomics received the Navy's final request for proposals for the MQ-25 Stingray. When the unmanned carrier-launched airborne surveillance program was put on hold in 2017, Boeing completed the construction of its wing-body tail covertly and resurrected it for the community-based agricultural research and development mission. Boeing's prototype aircraft entrant, which included insights from its various unmanned aerial systems and the Boeing Phantom Ray flying wing, was unveiled on December 19, 2017. Although Boeing claims that this was taken into account when designing the MQ-25, the aircraft's design is not new for the tanking mission. This company prioritizes adaptability and cutting-edge technology in the design of the MQ-25 Stingray. The aircraft is a stealth drone that can refuel in the air and is based on a carrier. Boeing wanted to use its vast knowledge of manned and unmanned systems. The contender has been put through a rigorous testing process, which includes successful flight tests showing that it can refuel a variety of naval aircraft. The RQ-170 Sentinel, a concept that Lockheed Martin first suggested, has a track record of success in reconnaissance missions. Their strategy was centered on enhanced sensor capabilities and stealth. Strategy, with a focus on intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities, the business aimed to incorporate technology that may improve carrier group's operational performance. Building on its experience with the X-47B, a prior unmanned carrier operations demonstration, Northrop Grumman unveiled a variation. Their design sought to optimize payload capacity and operational range. Northrop Grumman's solution was unique in that it demonstrated advances in UAV technology by integrating autonomous elements for carrier operations. General Atomics, which is well known for the Predator and Reaper drones, wanted to contribute its wealth of unmanned aircraft expertise to the competition. Their design placed a strong emphasis on combining refueling duties with strike capability. Their main aim was to create a flexible platform that could fulfill several functions within a carrier strike group. The United States Navy assessed bids according to a number of factors, including cost, operating experience, technical skills, and the possibility of quick deployment. The United States Navy declared Boeing the winner of the competition on August 30, 2018, and gave the company a $805 million development contract for 4 MQ-25, an aircraft which is expected to be finished by August 2024. Their creative strategy and solid track record in aeronautical technologies had a role in the decision. The Navy hopes to lower operating costs and improve mission flexibility by integrating unmanned systems into carrier operations. In addition to forcing rival defense behemoths like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and General Atomics to innovate and improve their plans, the competition to create the MQ-25 Stingray has cemented Boeing's leadership in unmanned naval aviation. This competition highlights the significance of technological superiority in contemporary combat scenarios and represents a significant shift in naval strategy towards unmanned systems. The MQ-25 program will continue to influence military aviation dynamics and establish standards for the integration of unmanned systems in naval operations in the future. The successful deployment of the MQ-25 is anticipated to greatly expand the operational reach of naval aviators, enabling carrier-based aircraft to operate at greater distances during missions. Significant drone technology breakthroughs have resulted from this competition, forcing all businesses to quickly develop in avionics, operational integration, and unmanned flight capabilities. On April 2, 2020, 3 more test MQ-25As were ordered, bringing the total order to 7. The program might eventually total $13 billion and include 72 aircraft. Across the Mississippi River, from Boeing's technical factory at Lambert International Airport in St. Louis to Mid-America St. Louis Airport, which is connected to Scott Air Force Base, the first MQ-25 test aircraft was transported by road in late April 2019. The Federal Aviation Administration certified the aircraft, and provided airspace for flight testing after taxi tests. The first flight of the MQ-25 was on September 19, 2019. Boeing published footage of the MQ-25's first flight with an externally installed Cobham aerial refueling depot in December 2020. The first refueling test was carried out on June 4, 2021, when an F/A-18 Super Hornet was fueled by the MQ-25 at Mid-America Airport in Mascoutah, Illinois. The MQ-25 was launched with assistance from Air Test and Evaluation Squadron VX-23. The two aircraft made many dry or wet contacts for over 10 minutes during the roughly 4.5-hour operation, transferring a total of 325 pounds of fuel. E-2 and F-35C were used for additional refueling experiments. During this first testing, the main goal was to show that the MQ-25 could refuel both vintage and modern aircraft, in this case the F/A-18 Super Hornet. Enhancing the United States Navy's air capabilities requires this capability since it enables carrier-based aircraft to fly farther without having to return to the carrier for fuel. Throughout the test, the MQ-25 functioned independently and effectively extended its refueling boom to deliver fuel to the F/A-18 while it was in flight. The mission demonstrated the MQ-25's sophisticated technologies, such as its sensors and algorithms, which enable precise maneuvering and reliable refueling connections. This incident established a standard for future unmanned aerial vehicle operations, as it was the first time an unmanned aircraft refueled a manned aircraft while in flight. By validating the MQ-25's design and its ability to close a significant gap in carrier air operations, this test was essential to the United States Navy's unmanned carrier aviation program. It is anticipated that integrating such unmanned technologies will improve mission capability and lessen the burden for pilots. Following the successful refueling test, additional tests were planned to assess the MQ-25's performance in various scenarios, ultimately leading to operational deployment on aircraft carriers. This event emphasizes the Navy's commitment to advancing unmanned technologies and enhancing the capabilities of its carrier air wings. The MQ-25 is also designed to conduct intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, further contributing to the Navy's operational flexibility. One Rolls-Royce AE 3007 turbofan engine, which produces 10,000-pound force of thrust, powers Boeing's MQ-25 design. This engine is a version of the one that powers the Navy's MQ-4C Triton. Compared to flying wing unmanned aerial vehicles, the aircraft is less stealthy. It does have a V-tail, flush inlet to protect engine blades from radar, and a stealthy fuselage shape. In April 2024, images of a model of MQ-25 were made public, displaying AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missiles on the underwing hardpoints. An electro-optical sensor ball beneath the nose in front of the forward landing gear was also depicted in the model. The United States Navy manages the program of record and is the system of systems required for the MQ-25 Air Vehicle Command and Control, and is critical to the unmanned aircraft refueling operations. The multi-domain combat system, the brains behind the UMCS MD-5EE ground control station, was created by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works. Other supporting gear and equipment were also developed by the U.S. Navy. All carrier-based unmanned aircraft systems in the future Carrier Air Wing will be controlled by the Unmanned Carrier Aviation Mission Control System, which enhances capability and interoperability in conjunction with the MQ-25. The Stingray is built to function in a networked ecosystem so it can interact, exchange information, and coordinate in real time with other aerial and naval assets. During missions, this connectivity enhances command and control, resulting in more effective and efficient operations. Radio and satellite communications will be used to carry out the refueling operations. The Navy's conventional catapult launch and recovery systems will be combined with the unmanned tanker. Core Power Electronic Circuit Breaker Unit technology, which gives operators intelligent control and visibility of the onboard power systems, will be implemented in the MQ-25 Stingray. The MQ-25 can conduct prolonged operations without regular landings or refueling because of its great range and endurance, which enable it to stay in the air for lengthy periods of time. Long-range reconnaissance and refueling operations both benefit from its endurance. The MQ-25 is an unmanned system that offers a safer option for executing risky missions while lowering the number of persons required for operations in hazardous settings. This drone is designed to be more cost-effective than traditional manned aircraft, both in terms of procurement and operational costs. This efficiency allows the Navy to allocate resources more effectively across its fleet. The MQ-25's capabilities improve interoperability across the branches by enabling combined operations with the Marine Corps, Air Force, and Allied naval forces. In summary, the MQ-25 Stingray is a highly adaptable and vital asset for the United States Navy because to its distinctive features, which include its carrier-borne design, aerial refueling capability, stealth characteristics, modular construction, cutting-edge technology, and cost-effectiveness. The Stingray differs from conventional manned and unmanned aircraft in that it can support a variety of tasks and improve the operational capability of aircraft carriers. It was created especially for aircraft carrier operations, which need a sturdy airframe that can survive challenging maritime conditions. Because of its design's folding wings, it can maneuver into a small deck area, which is essential for missions aboard Navy ships. Compared to conventional aircraft, the MQ-25 has a smaller radar cross-section, which makes it harder for adversary radar systems to identify it. Stealth technology, which is essential for functioning in contested areas where adversary detection could be fatal, is included into its design. Because of its modular architecture, the aircraft may be quickly modified to fit different mission profiles and can incorporate new payloads or technologies. This adaptability allows the system to handle a variety of actions, which is essential in a combat situation that is changing quickly. The MQ-25 has state-of-the-art sensors for data collecting, surveillance, and navigation. These capabilities greatly improve situational awareness by enabling it to provide carrier strike groups with crucial intelligence and reconnaissance. In an unexpected turn of events, a highly classified Navy drone that is owned by the United States has been spotted on Google Earth, alerting the defense community and capturing the attention of people worldwide. This shocking discovery of the top-secret underwater vehicle has sparked several speculation and curiosity, leaving the United States rivals in a state of unrest. What does this discovery mean for national security? Can this technology serve as the final line of defense in a full-scale nuclear conflict? Join us as we unveil the mystery surrounding the deployment of the top-secret Navy drone that was spotted on Google Earth. A top-secret U.S. submarine prototype known as the Manta Ray has been spotted by Google Maps users and is now visible to everyone online. Satellite images of this Star Wars-esque vessel docked at Port Hueneme Naval Base in California went viral on Sunday. Its unmistakable profile stood out against the other ships, capturing the attention of the internet public. The sleek, futuristic vessel, named Manta Ray for its smooth design and ability to anchor itself deep underwater, operates in low-power mode like its sea creature namesake. The Navy aircraft was created by Northrop Grumman for a U.S. Navy project aimed at developing long-range underwater weapons. This aviation company is well known for its groundbreaking projects, such as the world's first stealth bomber, the B-2 Spirit, and the ongoing development of America's new stealth bomber, the B-21 Raider. The B-2 Spirit, which is a pinnacle of aerospace engineering, was developed by the U.S. Air Force for deep penetration missions, capable of carrying nuclear and conventional payloads. Its distinctive flying wing design, which lacks a traditional fuselage and tail, enhances its stealth and aerodynamic efficiency. With a range of 6,000 nautical miles, the B-2 integrates advanced low-observable technologies, digital avionics, and a sophisticated fly-by-wire control system. Initially designed for Cold War nuclear strikes, the B-2 was later adapted for precision conventional attacks, featuring upgrades like GPS-aided targeting and the ability to carry up to 80 JDAMs. Its stealth capabilities are supported by radar-absorbent materials, low infrared and acoustic signatures, and strategic visual camouflage. Its construction involves carbon graphite composites and tight engineering tolerances, ensuring its radar-absorbent properties. It is maintained in specialized hangars to preserve its stealth features and remains a crucial component of modern military aviation. The B-21 Raider, on the other hand, represents a new era in strategic bombers for the U.S. Air Force. designed to replace older models with next-generation features. Developed under the Long-Range Strike Bomber program, the B-21 boasts advanced stealth capabilities, long-range endurance, and the ability to carry a variety of weapons, including nuclear bombs. It features innovative avionics, stealth technology, and a design optimized for radar evasion, using advanced materials and stealth coatings. It can carry over 30,000 pounds of various weapons, making it a formidable asset in modern warfare. The Air Force plans to acquire at least 100 Raiders, potentially increasing to 145. The Raider will initially operate alongside existing bombers like the B-52 and B-2, eventually replacing them. It will be stationed and maintained at multiple Air Force bases, including Ellsworth, which will be the first to host the new bomber. While many details about the B-21 remain classified, its capabilities have already troubled adversaries like China, sparking comparisons with China's Xi'an H-20 bomber. The B-21's design prioritizes stealth, advanced avionics, and communication systems, making it a central hub for modern combat operations. However, recently a different Northrop Grumman creation that is quite different from its exceptional bomber has been capturing attention online. This sleek, futuristic submarine combines the advanced technology seen in Northrop Grumman's stealth aircraft with the evolutionary prowess of the ocean's most graceful deep-sea predators. The result is a new deep-sea submersible designed to operate for extended periods in the ocean's depths, lying dormant on the seafloor until a threat approaches. The Manta Ray is a cutting-edge underwater drone. This sophisticated machine can hibernate on the ocean floor for extended periods without needing to refuel, making it a remarkable advancement in naval technology. Dr. Kyle Warner, Manta Ray Program Manager at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, described the vessel's movement, stating that it makes use of efficient, buoyancy-driven gliding to move through the water. In an agency news release, he further announced that their successful, full-scale Manta Ray testing validates the vehicle's readiness to advance toward real-world operations. He went ahead to point out the aircraft's versatility, explaining that craft is designed with several payload bays of multiple sizes and types to enable a wide variety of naval mission sets. Its modular design allows it to be disassembled and transported in ordinary shipping containers, making it incredibly versatile and eliminating the need for specialized port facilities. According to the Telegraph, the Navy conducted extensive tests on the craft off the coast of Southern California, spending more than 3 months evaluating its capabilities. Defense analysts believe the Navy's push to develop drone technology is a strategic move to counter Russian and Chinese submarine operations. Russia has been advancing its own underwater drone technology, with plans to acquire nearly 36 such vessels. The United States adversary claims their drone boasts a range of about 6,200 miles, can be armed with nuclear warheads, and can also reach exceptional speeds of up to 115 miles per hour. While nature's manta ray feeds on small fish and plankton, Northrop Grumman's manta ray targets much bigger prey, the nuclear ballistic missile submarines of enemy nations. These subs can sneak deep into American waters, posing a huge threat by potentially launching devastating attacks on the mainland. The manta ray is designed to counter these threats and protect American shores from a new nuclear conflict. The manta ray emerges as a stealthy underwater craft ready to confront submerged threats using a range of advanced capabilities before settling back on the seabed to patiently await its next mission. Northrop Grumman's unveiling of the Manta Ray uncrewed underwater vehicle on April 8 marks a significant accomplishment in deep-sea drone technology. This autonomous drone is built for long-range operations, capable of operating independently for extended periods with minimal human intervention, as outlined by Northrop Grumman and confirmed in Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency announcements and contracting documents. The journey began in March 2020 when DARPA awarded development contracts to Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and Novatech, marking a pivotal moment for their ambitious Manta Ray program. Dr. Kyle Warner, the program manager, envisioned an autonomous underwater vehicle capable of independent operations, self-sustaining energy harvesting, and completing assigned missions autonomously. Recent tests off the coast of Southern California in February and March 2024 showcased the manta ray's hydrodynamic prowess, affirming its ability to maneuver underwater using various propulsion and steering methods, buoyancy, propellers, and control surfaces. Dr. Warner emphasized the successful full-scale testing as validation of the vehicle's readiness for real-world missions, achieved through rapid development efforts. Chase boats closely monitored the performance assessments during testing, which lays emphasis on the program's commitment to fielding a deep-sea drone that is capable of extended operations without continuous human logistical support, as outlined in Dr. Warner's program description. While not explicitly detailed in the program's description, insights from those involved suggest that Manta Ray is focused not only on long-lasting deep-sea missions, but also on pioneering energy management and harvesting techniques tailored for deep ocean conditions. Essentially, it aims to find innovative ways to reduce energy usage and harness environmental sources to power the platform. This includes developing advanced systems on board to cut down on energy demands for everything from propulsion to detecting threats and more. Another company, Metron Incorporated, has also joined the effort to advance technologies in this particular direction. The goal of the program is to introduce a revolutionary underwater technology that moves away from the traditional torpedo-shaped military submarine design and embraces the streamlined forms seen in marine life. Although DARPA was open to designs that didn't mimic natural manta rays, Northrop Grumman seemed inspired by this concept when developing their own submersible. They opted for a sleek design resembling a manta ray with hints of the iconic B-2 Spirit aircraft. Dr. Warner noted that one can either chase them around with a host vessel, which is expensive and takes a lot of time and requires humans above them, or instead find a way to extend endurance under the sea. Part of this project from a military utility perspective is reducing the burden on human-operated ships. Also, mechanical engineer Dr. Jonathan White, who specializes in wave energy conversion at Sandia National Laboratories and serves as an advisor for the overall effort, says there are several potential avenues for power production under the sea beyond capturing the power of currents, such as salinity gradient power, derived in various ways like reversed electrodialysis. Northrop Grumman is digging into the concept of a limitless mission for their unmanned underwater vehicle station, involving the deployment of separate thermal energy pods. These pods generate electricity by tapping into the ocean's thermal gradients, using the temperature differences between warm and cold currents. For UUVs like Manta Ray, these thermal energy pods could serve as underwater refueling stations, allowing them to return and recharge as needed. Communication poses another major problem for deep-sea platforms. While military vessels on or above the ocean surface rely on radio signals, these signals struggle to penetrate the ocean's highly conductive saltwater. American nuclear ballistic missile submarines heavily depend on very low-frequency transmissions, which are broadcast through large antenna complexes located at installations worldwide. These transmissions are crucial for maintaining communication with underwater assets. However, if these stations are compromised, maintaining this crucial link becomes extremely challenging. The thermal energy pod concept could also facilitate rapid data transfer. Data bubbles deployed from the energy pod could rise to the surface, where they would use internal RF satellite communications antennas to transmit data back to shore or nearby surface vessels. This innovative approach could ensure reliable communication, even if traditional means are disrupted. Navigating and controlling underwater, avoiding obstacles, and ensuring extreme reliability for extended operations in harsh environments are key challenges for the Manta Ray project. If successfully addressed, these capabilities could profoundly enhance coastal defense strategies. The U.S. Navy is actively seeking such solutions due to the increasing array of submersible threats worldwide. Currently, Russia's ongoing production of 3 more Beret-class submarines and their development of the Status 6 Ocean Multipurpose System, also known as Poseidon or Canyon, are particularly concerning. This high-speed nuclear torpedo is designed to travel up to 5,400 nautical miles at speeds reaching 54 knots, which is about 62 miles per hour underwater, posing significant strategic challenges for maritime security. If a Russian Shchuka B-class attack submarine armed with long-range cruise missiles were to detonate inside an American harbor, the consequences would be catastrophic. This is not just a theoretical concern. Back in 2017, a Russian military documentary claimed that a fleet of these submarines positioned themselves just outside American waters. Detecting and tracking such submarines would not only reveal United States detection capabilities, but also potentially trigger increased investment by the Russian Navy into their own submarine fleet. The U.S. Navy responded swiftly to the Russian claims. In direct response to the revelations in the Russian documentary, then Secretary of the Navy Richard versus Spencer wasted no time in announcing the deployment of additional anti-submarine warfare assets. This move was aimed at bolstering America's defenses against potential threats lurking beneath the waves. Amidst China and Russia's aggressive advancements in undersea warfare capabilities, the United States and its NATO allies find themselves in a technological arms race. Initiatives such as DARPA's Anti-Submarine Warfare Continuous Trail Unmanned Vessel represent critical steps in countering these evolving submarine threats. Despite the vast array of warships and submarines at their disposal, maintaining a vigilant defense across expansive maritime territories requires constant innovation and unwavering readiness. Sea creatures, known for their natural ability to reproduce and adapt to their surroundings, are being studied to bolster sensor systems that monitor the movements of both manned and unmanned underwater vehicles. This initiative involves developing the necessary hardware, software, and algorithms to interpret animal behaviors into practical intelligence. Leveraging marine life for surveillance purposes could offer a cost-effective way to strengthen coastal defense capabilities. The threat posed by enemy submarines underscores the need for innovation. Each performer in the Manta Ray project has taken distinct approaches to addressing challenges related to the endurance of unmanned underwater vehicles. DARPA's goal is to tackle complex issues where there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, ensuring resilient and versatile defense technologies for future needs. The United States is not the only nation with an exceptional submersible. Let's explore its rivals' intriguing deep-sea vehicle, beginning with Russia and China. Mir, which means world or peace in Russian, refers to a pair of advanced deep-sea vehicles. Originally developed by the USSR Academy of Sciences and the Lazuri T Central Design Bureau, these vehicles were constructed by a Finnish company called Rauma Repolo's Oceanic subsidiary and delivered in 1987. The project was overseen by engineers from the Shirshov Institute of Oceanology. These vehicles were primarily designed for scientific research purposes. While they could potentially assist in submarine rescue operations, they cannot accommodate passengers underwater. The RV Academic Mstislav Keldysh serves as both the carrier and command center for Mir 1 and Mir 2, both operated by the Russian Academy of Sciences. Their military equivalents are the Consul-class submersibles. Capable of diving to depths of up to 6,000 meters, Mir submersibles feature a personnel sphere made from a special miraging steel alloy. This alloy, containing cobalt, nickel, chrome, and titanium, offers a strength-to-weight ratio 10% better than titanium. The sphere's construction involves casting and machining two hemispheres that are bolted together, avoiding the use of welded joints. This design closely matches the density of water, aiding movement at various depths. Additional buoyancy is provided by 8 cubic meters of syntactic foam. Unlike other deep-sea vehicles using iron ballast, Mir adjusts its buoyancy and depth using ballast tanks. The Mir submersibles are formidable machines, measuring about 7.8 meters in length, 3.6 meters in width, and standing 3.0 meters tall, with a weight of 18,600 kilograms and a maximum payload capacity of 290 kilograms. The personnel sphere boasts walls that are 5 centimeters thick, encompassing a working area with a diameter of 2.1 meters. There are 3 viewports, one forward-facing with a 20-centimeter diameter and 2 side-facing with 12-centimeter diameters each. Powering these submersibles are Nikod batteries with a capacity of 100 kilowatt per hour. Electric motors drive hydraulic pumps that operate hydraulic manipulators and 3 propulsors, one aft propulsor rated at 9 kilowatt and 2 side propulsors rated at 2.5 kilowatt each. These capabilities enable the Mir submersibles to achieve a maximum underwater speed of 5 knots. Longitudinal trim control is facilitated by 2 spherical water ballast tanks located fore and aft. These tanks can expel water using compressed air as needed. Inside the cabin, air pressure is maintained at a constant 1 atmosphere, with air recycling akin to spacecraft operation, using lithium hydroxide scrubbers to remove carbon dioxide buildup. Communication with the surface is maintained via VHF radio, while imaging sonar units with a range of 250 meters allow for visualizing nearby objects and accurately measuring distances, including to the seabed during descent. The life support systems of the Mir submersibles can sustain operation for up to 246 man-hours, equivalent to approximately 3.42 days for a 3-person crew. Designed to withstand pressures at depths of 6,000 meters, these submersibles have been rigorously tested to 125% of that pressure. In actual field testing, Mir 1 descended to depths of 6,170 meters, while Mir 2 reached 6,120 meters. Originally equipped with hydraulic manipulators covered by helmet-like retractable see-through visors, these were removed during a major overhaul in 1994. Due to their operational constraints, the Mir submersibles change depths at a maximum vertical speed of 40 meters per minute, necessitating several hours for journeys to and from deep-sea sites. The Mir submersibles, initially developed by the USSR Academy of Sciences and Lazurit Central Design Bureau, were pivotal in various deep-sea explorations and film projects. In 1998, they were instrumental in documenting the sunken Japanese submarine 152 for a National Geographic special. Led by treasure seeker Paul Tidwell, the crew aboard the Russian irreplaceable spent over 5 weeks in the mid-Atlantic, though no gold was recovered. These dives, reaching depths deeper than the Titanic wreck, were captured in the television special Search for the Submarine I-52. Later, the Mir vehicles were utilized by filmmaker James Cameron to film the Titanic wreck and the German battleship Bismarck for documentaries. They also played a crucial role in scientific missions, including the first manned descent to the seabed under the geographic North Pole in 2007, planting a titanium flag of Russia, and conducting research. In subsequent years, the Mir submersibles explored Lake Baikal and participated in scientific studies in Lake Geneva. Today, Mir Oni is displayed at the Museum of the World Ocean in Kaliningrad, while Mir 2 is housed at the Atlantic Division of Shirshov Institute of Oceanology in Kaliningrad, awaiting relocation to the Institute's museum in Moscow. Now, moving on to the Chinese Jiaolong. The Jiaolong, which means flood dragon in Chinese, is a crewed deep-sea research submersible capable of diving more than 7,000 meters deep. It was developed from the Sea-Pole-class bathyscaphe and ranks second in depth capability among crewed research vehicles of the Chinese Navy. Only a few expeditions, such as those of the Trieste bathyscaphe in 1960 and the Deep-Sea Challenger in 2012, have gone deeper. The submersible was designed by Xu Qinan, a former professor at Shanghai Jiaotong University, known for his work in naval architecture and engineering. Xu, now an academician for the Chinese Academy of Engineering, led the design alongside his team, including Kui Weicheng and Zhu Weikung. Jiaolong made its first test dives in the South China Sea in 2010, reaching depths of over 3,000 meters with a crew of 3. It achieved deeper dives, including 4,027 meters in the northeastern Pacific in 2011, conducting extensive scientific research during its missions. In 2012, Jiaolong set a record by reaching over 7,000 meters in the Mariana Trench. Countries like the United States, France, Russia, India, and Japan have also developed advanced deep-sea technologies, reflecting the global interest and investment in deep-water exploration and research. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.